Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone knows in this room that the security landscape is constantly evolving and the attacks are getting more sophisticated. Every line of code is an opportunity for an attacker. So we need to have our engineers prepared to build early in the process, in the design phase, not in the threat modeling phase to think about security. They need to think about it a little bit earlier. Whenever we talk to engineers at Microsoft, I'll ask them, are you in security? And they'll say, no, I'm over in this other team. And I say, no, actually you are in security. Because if you're an engineer at Microsoft, you need to be a security engineer. And that's what we strive to do. So my name is Stephanie Calabrese. I'm a principal PM in MSRC.
My name is Alex DeDonker, co-presenting with my boss, Stephanie. We've been working together close to 5 years on some really impressive stuff, really awesome programs. Our bread and butter, we got started on an internal compliance program. I'm going to name drop it, called Strike. Amazing program, but we've been doing that for close to 5 years, and we support our engineers and sort of that next step in their security training and that evolution to train that security muscle. Beyond that, I also freelance and dabble outside of our internal efforts. I work at, anyone been to Blue Hat in the room? Just out of curiosity, Blue Hat Conference, quite a few of y'all. Our team puts that on, and I also help out with third-party sponsorships. So if I'm not here presenting, I'll be at the Microsoft booth. So come check us out. Outside of that, we really bring a special touch to what we do, and we're going to kind of showcase some of the magic that we bring to security training. But of course, there's key challenges across the board. We all face these. Every organization is probably familiar with this. ChatGPT most certainly was familiar with these key challenges to any security training. But really, this beyond the PSA, everyone needs to have that awareness, and there needs to be the buy-in, but also an investment from whoever it is that makes the calls for that time and resource. You're going to be like, Alex, thanks. Gosh, this would be a dream scenario, and I agree. It's not black and white. There's no perfect science to training, but you've got to take this stuff seriously. Beyond that, I really want to reiterate just a couple last few things on here. The final one being culture. A culture that embraces security, rooted in security, is going to be your best bet. And we're going to walk you through a few of the ways we try and do that here at Microsoft, but also out in the community. And the most important thing, I'll let Stephanie actually take over. It's the
fostering of the community. So we often know that our engineers are looking at the features or their delivery dates or things that they have to hit. And sometimes security is not top of mind. But when you are dealing with a bug in production, it's incredibly expensive. And not just money, right? You're pulling people off features, but also their morale, right? They're getting that call at 2 a.m. Interestingly, I was looking for memes for a 2 a.m. call. None of them were negative about security incidents. Everyone was happy to get a 2 a.m. call and all the memes, but that's not reality for security folks, right? You see that 2 a.m. call and you know you're going to maybe at least have a bad night, if not a bad week. And so what can we do to help people embrace a security culture so they are not having to get those 2 a.m. calls they want to avoid? So has anyone here seen the Digital Defense Report by Tom Burt? If you haven't, it's fabulous. October 2023, it came out, and it really talks about the threats that we're seeing today. So one of the things that are highlighted here, you'll see that we saw an increase in password and MFA attacks. They are going to only get worse, and the attackers are not going to stop. Now, I would love to believe that all of our developers and engineers are eagerly awaiting the release of this and devour the content as soon as it comes out. But unfortunately, that's not always the reality. So what do? A couple of years ago, Tom Burt, who's the one who released that for Microsoft, came to us and said, we'd really like to use you to help get this word out to the community. So we put together a session. Tom hits on all of the highlights of what people should be thinking about. And what we like to, and then he's there for Q&A, and he's telling the people what's really going on right now. And it's great because it's a wonderful opportunity to really inspire the engineers to care about security, again, early on in the design phase. And so you might say, I don't know all of the inspiring stories to tell. I don't necessarily know all of the problems, and that's okay. But what you can do is you can leverage your resources. So it's great because Tom now comes to us. Every year, Tom's team comes and says, hey, we want to do this, let's prepare it. It's fantastic. But you don't have to be a CVP to do this. You have SMEs all around you. So your SMEs are going to be, of course, people in security. If they're in security, they're going to have something to say, I guarantee you. And maybe they're not ready to get on a big stage, but there's other opportunities Alex will talk about in a little bit, ways that you can engage with them. But then you're also going to have people who are just passionate. They love security, they love crypto, they love something. Lean into those people. We've had great success with working with our interns. We talk to them about their favorite courses they're taking or their favorite things that they've learned. And we bring them in and they talk about that. Again, it's a way for them to share their knowledge and to, again, hopefully keep the excitement going around security. Bill, great. So how do you get them to do this, right? Because a lot of these people, this is not their day job. They actually have a day job. So how do you get them to invest their time in something like this? Because as anyone knows who's ever stepped up on any type of stage, virtual or in person, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. So you want to make it really beneficial for them. You want to be able to demonstrate to them how they are scaling their knowledge, how they are scaling their impact across an organization. One of the things that I often do is when people send me requests for feedback on their annual reviews, I'm very glad to give it to talk about the number of people that they train, their satisfaction scores, the feedback that we actually get, the verbatims that come from people. And this is something that shows not only them, but their leadership, that they are invested in the community and invested into giving back. And I will say it does help to get a little bit of budget to run these kind of programs. But you don't need budget. This is something that you really can do grassroots. So we have 3 things highlighted up here that have been a really important part of what we do. The first is our content advisory board. So whenever we have a session that's coming up, we don't want to just say like, oh great, let's do your session. No one else has to know what's going on. We bring in other experts from around to review that content with them, to provide them feedback, to make sure, one, we're landing the right messages, and also, you know, security, sometimes there's things we don't necessarily want to say on a big stage. So you want to make sure that they are fully set up for success. We also have deck design support. So we always tell them, you bring the knowledge, we'll make it look pretty. Put all the content out there, we will help your deck be accessible, we'll help it look good, we'll help it be engaging. And then finally, presenter coaching. We have, both of us and other people on the team have offered presenter coaching, but we've had the luxury of being able to hire a presenter coach as well. This helps them get up on stage and be their best self. One of the best compliments I received, I was in the coffee room, if you will, and someone came up to me who was a pretty well-seasoned presenter, but he said, this is the first time that I ever felt like I wasn't in it alone. Normally, I get a talk accepted, and then I do everything, and then I show up, and I hope it goes well. By the time someone gets on our stage, they've gone through content reviews, they've gone through drive runs, they've gone through presenter coaching. We should have done all of this. I don't know why we didn't, but so they're fully ready when they get up there to do those things.
Yeah, no, with that said, we've kind of already addressed how to create awareness, that Tom Bird example, great example. But also how to invest, investing in these SMEs, all part of that key challenges we stressed earlier. But also you got to evolve and try new things. I'm sure we've all done the click-through module-based trainings. Yeah, no, maybe. I'm seeing a lot of head shaking yes, but don't make that the only thing you do, especially when you have all these great opportunities like in-person events. Those are our bread and butter. We almost host a mini conference of sorts at Microsoft for thousands of people, and we have that really, we have the white glove service throughout, and it's just awesome. It's our bread and butter, but diversify. Offer smaller talks. Lightning talks are like 15-minute kind of TED Talky-esque talks. It's perfect for the normal attention span like mine, about 15 minutes. So, just make that part of a track. This might be the lightning track in this room, a little smaller, shorter, condensed. But have fun too. Try Villages. I don't know if this is your first time having a chance to try Villages, but we've started to offer those internally at Microsoft even, and people just geek out to it and totally love it. And those SMEs, they're stepping forward with those ideas, which is even more cool because it's less work for me. The locksmith people want to show up. The red teamers want to do their pen testing exercise. Just give them a platform, leverage those SMEs. Or if you're kind of more looking for measured metrics, try some targeted campaigns. If there's one service that requires, this group or this subset of employees to onboard to, try a targeted event where by the time they leave there, they have everything they need to check that official box and mark them compliant. It's a great one for sharing data with your higher ups to get further budget. That's a little cut and dry, but I want to talk about capture the flags as well. We actually have one of our partners from the past, Security Innovation, in the room that does capture the flag events. They've been a huge resounding hit across all of our audiences, whether it be external or internal. It's a really great way to train a muscle that not too many people get a play around with in their day jobs. A lot of people are like, wow, I got to do this on the clock. Like, maybe don't download those tools and get flagged by Microsoft for looking like an insider hacker, but know that skill set of uncovering this vulnerability leads into the products of them not allowing that vulnerability in. So it's kind of like a backwards way of training, but it's super effective, and a ton of people get inspired in that event and even get hired out of some of our competitions. I don't think we're going to share that story later, but another super important thing is having a community beyond, a lot of those click-throughs. You hit finish, you get your compliance, and you're done. You have no one to respond to, no one to ask a question to. The community, in essence, is that continued conversation. And one of the cool things that we do is our SMEs that are the ones presenting become sort of the main touch point for the people. Like even our videos that get posted online, like the person in the back, we'd be the ones having to field the questions online in that forum about our talk. So it really connects the people to the content, and you got to have that online space. But one of the best things we do is offering networking and Q&A opportunities. Our events, you'll hear it all the time, and it's one of my favorite things to hear, is I haven't even seen my teammates. Like, this was a full bonding experience. Like, you'd be surprised if you made training fun, the amount of people that would flock to you and consider it a bonding day and would spend their weekends, Saturdays, showing up to things like this that we do. And be inclusive, offer everything virtually. I love that they're recording this. We tend to do the same at our events. So if you're not able to make it in person, you can check it out. With that said, though, you got to evolve. Some of those ideas were unheard of when I first started on this team 5 years ago. So you got to try new things, but you've also got to cater to your audience. I'm not technical. A lot of people, even in engineering at Microsoft, are not going to be as technical. So the diverse workforce requires, a special attention. And you've got to find ways to explain technical concepts, in simple, everyday language. You can't make assumptions that everyone knows the million acronyms that your company uses on a day-to-day basis. Use analogies for abstract concepts, even demos, visual aids, fun decks, things that just get people and capture their attention. But one last little tidbit is preface. Make sure people understand what they're about to view. If it's a very technical talk, let people know this is a 300 level course, so you're not getting really bad feedback saying, hey, that was way over my head. What was that training all about? Or vice versa. And that comes into how we evolve and learn, and we do that by feedback. Feedback's so crucial. We live.
Feedback is a gift, we say.
Feedback is a gift. Seriously a gift. Even if it's bad, we take it in stride, but it helps us improve. No matter how you're collecting, usually a form or live poll or in-room feedback. If you're like me and work at these conferences, go talk to someone after the fact and see how you guys did. But that feedback often turns into a collection of praise for the people that participated in those SMEs that we leverage. It's a thanks. I never knew that was even possible. And we get to share that with those managers. And then they're lifelong advocates for us and our program and continue to come back because they're seeing people, flock to what they have to say. And, being wanted is a great thing.
We have a lot of repeat presenters. We actually have to say we need new presenters because we do invest in them, we work with them, and we build the community, and that's how you're able to continue to grow.
And like I said, with the villages, those people came to me. We crowdsourced the ideas from one question in a forum. Hey, what can we do next at our events? Oh, bring workshops, bring villages. let's try it. They step forward like, all right, are you willing to do the red team village? Sure, yeah, let's do a red team village, and just bring it to life. Give people a chance. Get down here at that final bullet, get behind and give a platform to security enthusiasts who are driving that change. You got to do it. They are our lifeline, so to speak. And Steph, off to you.
Yeah, so these are all great strategies of things that you can do, but let's talk about impact, right? At the end of the day, we want to know how are we going to improve impact. And so I do not see him in here. He might be avoiding it, actually. I want to talk about Arjun Gopalkrishna. He is an engineer at Microsoft, and he came to a Strike event. And he was, Strike is the internal training program that we run. And he was inspired by that, and so he decided to go spend some time learning offensive techniques and offensive strategies. So he came to us a couple of months later and said, hey, I was inspired. I learned these things. I would love to do a talk called From Engineer to Hacker. And we're like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. So he follows the process. He goes to the cab. He gets great feedback. He gets the deck help. He gets the presenter coaching, all of the things. He does this talk. It's amazing. A couple of months later, we get an email. He's like, hey, I want to let you know that talk that you gave me, I actually got it accepted at DEF CON. So the deck that we helped him do and all that presenter coaching, he's getting to carry that on and represent our company outside really well. Then he reaches us out to again. He said, hey, one more time, I got to tell you thank you. Remember those people that were on the cab, these leaders that were in security? I just accepted an offer on their team from them. It gives me chills. It just gives me chills thinking about it. Because he decided to pursue that passion and he was introduced to people. So again, we've caught another fly in our trap by, again, scaling our knowledge and getting people excited, which is really fun. So here's a list of things of, how can you create impact, right? You have your reduced incidents, you have hopefully people who are saving money, we have the customer trust we're building, all of these things, all are fantastic. I don't know, how many people are in here are from Microsoft? Can I ask? Okay. Well, outside of Microsoft, maybe you're not familiar with reorgs, but at Microsoft, we like reorgs. We do them, it seems like, often. And every time I get a new leader, they ask me, this is great, Stephanie. All of this is great, but how are we going to measure impact? And the truth is, it's not a perfect science. We have things that we do. We have certain targets we hit, like our satisfaction scores and the number of attendees that we want in a room. But there's other ways that you can do. You're going to get feedback that we talked about. You look at that feedback. You see how you change, how you can grow. One of my favorite stories is it was very early on when I first started working on this program. We're in a room pretty small like this, set in classroom style, and a presenter is standing up and giving a really great, engaging talk. And suddenly, out of the blue, a gentleman stands up quickly, abruptly, gets his stuff, and runs out. And at first I'm like, oh gosh, is everything okay with the taco bar? What's happening? Why are they running out of here so quickly? A couple of hours later, we get an email, and he says, I just have to let you know, I knew that I had that problem in my service, and I had to leave and go and fix it right away. And that is the kind of story, again, little tears in my eyes as it brings. We don't always get to know those things, but if you keep building it, people will pay attention, and it will, in the long run, create a positive security culture and community. And when he left, that's what we wanted him to do. We give you something to do. Every time, we're like, this is your go-do. Here's what we want from you.
And that is right. And I would expect him to have ran out of the room during the go-do slide. This is our final recommendation. This is not as tangible as most of our security trainings, but this is the little bullet-pointed list that everyone gets to take back to their team and say, hey, look what I learned. We should be doing this within our org. So today, walking out of this room, you got to identify and set your SMEs up for success. They are your lifeline. You'd be surprised at who these SMEs could even possibly be an intern. Give those folks, say a small stage to start out. Host a brown bag for your team. Let them share some of the information they've captured throughout their college years. And invest in those SMEs, because those will be the people leading your program someday. Build a community of volunteers. No training, nothing we do in person is happening without volunteers. It's my favorite work stream to work with the volunteers, the people showing up on a Saturday. They are your final lifeline. I keep saying lifeline. But try different events. Try capture the flags. Do unique and interesting things. You'd be surprised at the fanfare around security. If you have something fun, they will participate. And I even had to create a leaderboard for our Capture the Flags because it became such a crazy competition that they wanted to see where they stacked up against their peers. So offer some fun stuff. Whoops. And give direct access to those SMEs. So I didn't mention this earlier in the Q&A portion, but when we have a big conference like this, pulling Tom Burt's on stage, he is in the back of the room during our built-in networking portion of the day to answer questions, to have those conversations that you would never have if you showed up to Microsoft one day at work. We position these SMEs to directly work with you if you're showing up to our events and having those conversations to continue the learning. Capture and evolve from feedback. You've got to figure out some way to capture that feedback and make sure to evolve. The times are changing. You've got to stay ahead of your adversaries, so start there. Be inclusive. Not everyone's going to be a PhD CS major with a master's in cybersecurity. So understand that anyone in engineering could be, we're all targets, but understand they'd need to hear the stuff just as much as anyone else. And lastly, be the program for the people, but by the people. We're telling you, leveraging SMEs, that's our secret sauce, and it'll get the job done, and it surely helps out even at a large company like Microsoft. That's it from a go-do standpoint. Let's stay in touch, though. Steph and I's LinkedIn's, as well as our X accounts. Mine has no posts and 2 followers, so maybe not worth typing it in, but email me.
Probably posts from me. The 2 posts are probably from me.
Some guy found me on Blue Hat and was like, oh, thanks for doing it. Anyway, yeah, don't look at my other Twitters. No, I'm kidding. But thank you. I really appreciate it. This is a great turnout for Track 5 at B-Side Seattle. We really appreciate you all being here. Thanks to my co-presenter, Steph, and all of you. Thank you.
Do we have to do questions? Or?
We have 3 minutes for questions as well. We'd love some questions.
It's way too small. We are definitely needing some new headcount. Thanks for asking. No, we have a couple of different programs, and for our internal one, 2 people are dedicated to that.
And then I jump in and help staff with extra volunteers. That's what I was saying. It's so crucial. We have at least a dozen volunteers for every event we do.
How many events is that team of 2 doing?
We do 4 main large ones a year, so about 1 a quarter. And then ideally we try to target about 10 CTFs a year, as well as virtual events. So the nice thing about doing a virtual event, getting a big room of people together can be challenging, but security doesn't wait for the quarter to end for the next event. Sometimes you're like, we need to get this information out. Those are a little bit easier to pull together. It's more like a virtual, and you still go through all the process, but it's not as big of a deal. That's also a great way, we didn't mention this, for people that maybe aren't ready to get on a stage yet, they're not prepared for it, doing something virtual is a great way to do that as well. Did you have a second question?
That
They were there together. Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
Thank you. Oh, no, we'll take it.
10 CTFs a year. Are people at Microsoft creating the challenges, or are you working with the third-party company?
Both. We've done both. We've done both.
And you'd be surprised how many people come with Capture the Flags. They're not all buttoned up and perfect, but it's a sport. A lot of people are really into it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And we encourage people to come with us with challenges. And then people will say, oh, I want to do this at a village somewhere. We're like, well, come and test it on us. And we'll bring in people. So it's kind of their dry run for their events.
And for some of those CTFs, we did a really cool challenge, like a CTF challenge walkthrough. Everyone's like, oh, how do you actually do this? I got stuck. And that's a really cool event type to actually show people how to do it, because CTFs are kind of like throwing bricks at a wall.
Yeah, for some people, definitely.
Yeah, so if you don't know what you're doing like me, most of the time the walkthrough is a little more valuable for someone like me.
Yeah. Okay.
1 minute. Any final questions? Yes, sir.
What's your target audience for the CTFs? Just for perspective, it's like we have our IT team, and then the other they're technical, completely different ways, but we want to kind of show them, hey, this is how it works. This is the cool stuff. You guys can do it too. It's just a keyboard.
Yeah, so we target those in the engineering disciplines at Microsoft. So you look at all of the engineering disciplines. And so we invite them, we tell them, you need to know a little bit about technology, but you don't have to be an expert. That's why you're coming. That's where you're there to learn. And we actually we try not to do it individually. We try to build teams because some people are going to have a skill set that maybe others weren't. So then they're able to learn from each other. And again, you're helping them build their communities.
And if you make a team scoring, then it's pressure on the teammates to say, hey, you haven't scored any points. Can I help you learn a couple things and score some points for the team? Yeah.
All right, well, right, we gotta keep this on schedule. So thank you all so much. We really do appreciate you coming, and we'll be at the booth, as Alex said. Let us know if you have any other questions.
I don't think I said that, but yeah, come by the booth.
Did you not say that? Oops.